This episode of Off My Shelf contains coarse language and adult conversation. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, my name is Tracy James, and welcome to Off My Shelf, a podcast about movies that are, well, off my shelf, where we go through my DVDs and talk about the movies in my collection. In this episode, Austin Wong joins me in talking about two moody films from the early 2000s with Matchstick Men and Memento. Welcome!
Hi, glad to be back.
Yes, it's always a pleasure to have you here to have a nice discussion about like artsy things on film. It's great.
That's right. Yeah, and like one of these films that we're talking about tonight, I would say is very artsy. It's like a pretty artsy film, and the other one is not. But it was.
When you say, like, to be honest, after watching both of these, I am not 100% sure which one you're talking about. So it will be a surprise.
Yeah, well, here, one thing I will say is, so I wanted to do this episode because Memento was one of my favorite movies, like from way back. And I hadn't seen it in years, but like when it first came out, I was obsessed because I just thought it's so clever. It's so unique. It's so interesting. And, you know, I just thought it was endlessly interesting. And, I never saw Matchstick Men at all. Like it was just the other film on this episode. So I watched it for the very first time, which I haven't done for any other films episodes. I've always seen them before and just rewatched. So this time, this is like my first time watching it. So it's like my fresh reaction. And I have to say, I was very surprised by it because
really?
I did not. I just rented it off of, I think it was Apple Plus I used. And so I didn't read anything and I just looked at the poster and I kind of thought, okay, it kind of like, and then it starts and I thought, looks comedy. And I thought it's going to be a con man comedy kind of thing. And it is basically, and then it kept going, but then I kept saying, where are the cons? Like it was just spending so much time with the people. And I was expecting Ocean's 11, like strategizing the whole time kind of thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't do that. It's very more on the characters than the cons, I would say. And then the daughter shows up. I guess I'm sort of getting to this, but then the daughter shows up and I thought, now it's another movie entirely. Now it's like, you know, the ne'er-do-well kind of curmudgeon that now has a daughter. And now it's like this sort of sentimental comedy that's not even a con man comedy. Now it's like this sort of family comedy. Yeah. And then by the end, I was very surprised by the end. I had no idea that was going to happen.
It's one of those movies that plays pretty smooth because even me rewatching it, because I've seen this movie several times, just not within like the last like 8 to 10 years. I haven't watched it. It's been on my shelf for a long time. And even like about 3/4 through, and I was like, I thought this was different. Why did I think this was? And then the end happens, like, oh, there it is. Okay, never mind. It is right. It is what I thought. Okay. But yeah, even I forgot like how much of the story is not focused on like the real goal of it, the whole thing. I'm trying not to give it away yet. But so you spend like you said, you spend a lot of time in the space where you're just like, this is not what I was expecting. I didn't expect to be here this long, you know? But the thing is, it's not boring.
No. It was very absorbing. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really fun movie. Like, and also the fact that I didn't know what was happening or what was going to happen. And I kept resetting my expectations and I kept trying to put it into these tropes that I thought, okay, this is going to be a con man movie, and then it wasn't that, and then this is going to be one of those sort of kindergarten cop or that kind of, that's a really weird reference, but just like that kind of like The Rock is now babysitting or whatever, like that kind of movie, and I thought it was going to be that, and it's also not. It sort of is, and then it's not at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like because I think after Ocean's 11 came out, there were so many like heist movies that do this. I know it was technically a remake and everything, so and stuff, but
it was a remake.
Yeah, it originally had the Brat Pack. It was like
you're talking about Ocean's 11.
Ocean's 11. Sorry, yeah, no. Matchstick Men is based on a book, but it is not a remake. But like with like Ocean's 11 and stuff, after that movie came out, there was a lot of heist movies that were just these like quick, snappy, like, oh, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing that. And like, you know, something is happening. And the whole point is this thing happening. And you have to see this thing happening. But this one, it's just like something's happening, but they don't pay attention to it at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the genius, because the movie itself is like a long con, right? It totally subverts your expectations. Like it in itself is the con more than the cons that we expected to see. Yeah, like Ocean's 11, those type of heist movies, it's almost like, what's that word? It's like competence porn, right? It's just like they're so good at it. You just want to enjoy them executing it perfectly and with such precision and everybody falling into place, right? It's like, but this was totally not that.
Well, I think that's the difference between like a con man movie and a heist movie. Like there's definitely cons in a heist movie because you have to, like, especially with something like Ocean's 11, where you have to make certain people believe things for your heist to work. There is a con involved in it, but it's not really about the con. It's about if they get the score at the end. Whereas I think a con man movie is about the characters and how they use themselves to do something different, right? I think I don't think I'm explaining that correctly because I think I've explained it exactly the same way, but in my head, they're very different things.
No, I agree. I mean, a con, like a heist movie is more like, I mean, it's like one big con, but it's almost like a con, I think, is a confidence game, right? Like you're trying to win the confidence of someone and then rip them off. Whereas the heist, there may be a con involved along the way, but the heist is really kind of more just sneaking in and out and trying to find the way.
It's cat burglary, you know?
Yeah, it's like trying to, how do I beat this safe? Or how do I get through this room kind of thing?
Exactly. And this movie really does, you know, gain my confidence. And I'm like, here you go. And then the end happens. You're like, no, it's a whole thing.
I know. I didn't even know how I felt about the ending because I felt so. It's such a funny way. Like, I mean, it makes sense when you watch it as a whole, but it's sort of disappointing in the moment for some reason. Here's the thing that's interesting about movies like this, because it's like basically it's a black comedy and it's anti-heroes, right? Like, you know, Nicolas Cage is not really a good person. Like that's one of the jokes. Like, you're not a bad person, but you're not really a very good one.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. And it's true, right? And so, I mean, when he says, you know, I don't feel good about my job. Like I'm a con man and I'm preying on the poor, the fat, the weak, the people that I can swindle. And, you know, he knows that he's wrecking all these people's lives and he feels he has a bit of a conscience about it, a bit, right?
But he's not stopping is what the real problem.
He's not stopping. And so at the end, which I guess, I don't know if we don't want to talk about the end, but I mean, what happens to him at the end, it's a bit of a comeuppance, right? Because it's sort of like it's happened to him. And then, you know, it's hard to know how bad you should feel about him because it was ill-gotten anyway. So but the very, very end of this movie, I liked so much because it's kind of a happy ending at the very, very end, right?
It is, yes.
Like basically, are we talking about the ending or are we trying to?
Yeah, no, we can talk. I just didn't want to get to it too fast. You know what I mean? We can talk about the ending. It's fine.
Well, I won't even talk about the twist yet, but I mean, but the very ending, and anything could have happened to bring him to this point, but the very ending where he basically gets out of the whole con man game and he's an honest man and he has, you know, maybe a shitty job, but he seems fine with it. But I love that he seems genuinely happy. And at the end, he's with this new woman that they showed through the whole thing who also has an honest job and she's pregnant. And it was clear through the movie that he really, really enjoyed being a dad, right? Like that was something that he wouldn't have realized had this other thing not happened, right? Like it was sort of thrust upon him. And then with his daughter sort of showing up out of the blue, and then he did really realize he really loves being a dad and wanted to be a dad and everything. And so I feel like it's a very happy ending for him because he's an honest man and he seems genuinely happy at the end and he's getting the life he wants.
Well, I actually think that is part of it, but I also think because he has OCD throughout the whole movie and like intense like tics and all that kind of stuff.
Tourette's almost. Like.
Yeah. And at the end of the movie, that's all gone essentially. Yeah. And I think the big reason for that is because I think the daughter coming into his life allowed him to realize he needed to be himself or be able to be himself around somebody. And as a con man who lives alone because of tragedy that happened before with his ex-wife or whatever, which the movie doesn't really get into. You just know they fought a lot and they separated. That's all you know. But he needed that companionship to be himself. And at the end, yes, when you see that he's happy now and he's got this woman in his life who's pregnant because he figured out, like, he's like, I could be a dad. I could be a good dad. But also he has somebody he can be himself around, especially now that he has like a regular job. And but it's a sales position. So essentially he gets to use all his skills that he learned as a con artist in a legitimate way.
Exactly. No, I agree. Didn't mean to interrupt, but like, yeah, even in that one scene where you sort of see him doing his job, like he seems pretty happy about it, right? Like his boss seems to like him and he's eager to get up and start talking to the customer or whatever until, you know, he finds out who customer's with. But I mean, up until that point, like you can see that he's actually probably pretty good at the job.
Yeah.
And just to follow your point about how all of his symptoms, like the Tourette stuff and the OCD, are gone. I mean, the one thing that you know, pseudo therapist did do for him is like said, you know, I gave you a placebo. You don't even need it. Like that was actually true, right? He said it's not actually a condition. It's more your conscience. So inadvertently, that guy actually gave him good advice. And
the funny thing about that is that at the end, you realize he was giving him the placebo because he wasn't a real doctor, so he couldn't prescribe him anything. But also giving him the placebo actually helps. Like the science behind placebos is a big deal. Like people know placebos can work, and so it did work for him.
It did.
I mean, it did. Yeah. So it really, like, as you said, inadvertently, they helped him. They took a lot of his money, but they helped him a great deal with the rest of his life.
They did. And like, it's kind of a strange long con to do, but I mean, I kind of loved when you think about it, like, you know, he puts the therapist there just to mine him for secrets. And then he uses that family secret to try to create this con or whatever. Right. It seems like a lot, but I mean, it's interesting because it actually does help him work through his problems, and it actually solves his life ennui in the end.
Yes. All. My one question about this whole thing is that, so one of the things that triggers this long con is the fact that his therapist disappears, right? Or the random man who prescribes him pills disappears. I don't think he was a therapist. He was just like a guy giving him drugs illegally, essentially.
Yeah.
My question is, did his partner get rid of that man, or was that man part of the long con? He was like, hey, disappear for a bit, stop giving him pills so we can start this. Or did he just like take him out and was like, boom, we can start now?
You know what? That's an excellent question, because it was kind of suddenly, mysteriously, the guy disappeared, and then Nicolas Cage is frantic, and then Frank has the solution. Well, you know what? I got a guy.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So, you know what? I mean, either way, that works. Whether it's a coincidence, but it does sort of make sense given how much planning Frank put into this whole con. Yeah, maybe he did take him out. Maybe that's right. When I was watching this, I kept thinking it was a bit directionless, right? Because at the beginning, I was like, where are the cons? Where are the cons? And then I was like, is this a character study? And then when it got to the daughter being introduced, and then he's spending time with this 14-year-old girl, and that, I kind of thought they wasted so much time before bringing the daughter in, because I felt like there was quite a long time before she showed up. And so part of my thought process when I'm watching this, I enjoyed watching it and everything. I thought, you know, this movie maybe could have been edited more, or maybe it was, I just thought, you know, it doesn't seem to know where it's going. But then, of course, when we find out the daughter is fake, the entire movie is a big con, and this whole heartwarming middle section is all part of this huge con. It totally makes sense, right? Yeah. So I feel like I really enjoyed it even after the fact, knowing how I was sort of played by the movie, just sort of thinking about my reactions, the way it was put together. I think it's
Yeah, like I said, I think the movie cons the viewer is essentially what it is.
The movie is a huge long con.
Yeah, it really is, and it's true. Like, but I think it is also partially a character study, especially with Nicolas Cage's character, is that like they take so long to get to the daughter because they have to show how bad his neuroses is, which they do. And but they also have to show what he's been doing as a con man as well, right? So it makes sense. So they show us like one full small con essentially at the beginning. Then they show us all his neuroses, and then the daughter shows up. So you've got like a good half an hour, 40 minutes before the daughter even comes into play. Yeah.
And I thought, if the daughter's going to be a big deal, it takes so long. And then when she shows up, all the cons are sort of on the back burner for a little while as we kind of spend time with the daughter.
Yeah.
So, but in retrospect, it's very well constructed. And I also thought it was interesting because I watched these movies quite close together, and they're both kind of about mental illness in a way.
They are.
Both lead characters are afflicted by a very obvious sort of mental illness or condition, as Guy Pearce likes to say. And I thought that was interesting too, because it was like just watching them together.
Well, and also in both situations, people don't take their mental problems seriously. They essentially treat them like a joke, or that they're lying, or they can get over it.
No, I don't agree that they don't take it seriously. I would say in both cases, the people around them take advantage of their condition to get what they want, right? So in Memento, the other two characters basically use him like a weapon.
Yes.
And in Matchstick Men, he uses his condition to get him a therapist and get him on pills, and basically that's how he uses his condition to find the information to screw him over.
Correct. Yes. Agreed. Yes. All right. They take advantage. We'll go that way. Yes.
I think. So I thought that was a really interesting inadvertent pairing, which I find also like when we do episodes like this, it's always interesting to find the overlaps. Like movies that might look like they have nothing to do with each other actually are quite similar.
They have quite a bit to do with each other. Yeah.
And this one was more obvious than like the Mean Girls one, where
yes, we did have to like climb over a little bit of hill to get the connection there, but we made it here. We made it. This one was pretty easy. We're just like, look, we can see it. It's fine. Yes.
It's both. Both of these movies have white male anti-heroes, both struggling with a mental condition, and both basically really not able to trust any of the people that are around them, like the people that they trust as friends.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. That's the thing with Matchstick Men, especially, is Sam Rockwell, who should have received all of the awards by now, but hasn't received any awards, which annoys me. I think he's not in this movie enough, but the parts where he is in, he does such a perfect job. But him as like his protege / partner / best friend, who is like, no, you taught me too well. Guess who's going to get conned now? And you're just like, what? This is crazy. This is crazy.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk a bit about Sam Rockwell now, since you brought him up, because I was like, I love him. I love Sam Rockwell. I think he's one of the most interesting actors because I find him very attractive, but he's not attractive in that normal conventional way. He's kind of weaselly. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a certain way to look at him where he does look kind of like a blandly handsome kind of white guy, but I feel like there's more character to his face, and the way he's a good dancer, but the way he stands, the way he holds his body, the way he dresses, like I feel like there's almost a through line in almost all of his roles. Like, so he must have something to do with his wardrobe, like like his kind of the way that sort of loungy kind of way he dresses sometimes.
I find him like, I think if I've never heard him speak or never heard him or heard of him or seen him do anything, if I saw him on the street, I would have been like, ew. But the thing is, he is very charming. So as soon as he starts to talk and he starts to move, you're just like, oh, I get it. Mm-hmm. Okay, I like this, And
it's not even just talking; it's just the way he moves, because he is such a good dancer. Like like Charlie's Angels, and there's a bunch of movies where he dances, and like everybody likes that. But
even in like Moon and all that kind of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, like they always try to find a way to make him dance. But I just think he's very good with his body in terms of, you know, projecting and making him like, I just think he's a very interesting presence. Like he doesn't look like a normal person when you watch him for a while, like the way he holds himself.
Well, I mean, I've seen a lot of his filmography, and one of the strangest ones is Gentlemen Broncos. And it's not a movie a lot of people have seen, but it's a movie that a lot of people should see. Okay. I'll tell you, Gentlemen Broncos. And I'll tell you the quick premise. It's about this kid who writes these weird sci-fi like novels, and he goes to this like sci-fi writing convention. And he gives this book that he's written to his like mentor and like this person he loves who's a writer, and essentially that author steals his story. Now, the reason why Sam Rockwell's in it is because throughout the movie, they read / show you sections of the book, right? And he plays the hero in the book. Okay. And it is, so you see the version that the kid wrote, and then you see the version that the author like updated and sold as being his. So you see like the different visions of the two sides and all that kind of stuff. And it's so weird. I'm going to tell you that it's so weird. Okay, I'm going to tell you that right now.
I love weird.
Sam Rockwell playing this weird hero who's trying to get the testicles of aliens to impregnate something. It's like, he does a fantastic job in both sides, because on one side, it's like they're dirty and they're gross and, you know, all their clothes are ripped and everything's gooey and sticky for some reason. But then on the other side, everybody's like flamboyant and everything's covered in pink and bright colors. And, you know, they're riding unicorns and stuff. And you're just like, what? But it is an amazing film and people need to watch it. You will enjoy it. I will tell you that.
I feel like I will. I feel like, and it sounds like a good role for him because he's good at weird.
Yeah, like when he played, I'm gonna forget the weird name of the character, Zaphod Beeblebrox or whatever, from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Right. The intergalactic guy who's got like two heads and stuff. Yeah. He was so perfect for that character, like on screen, like so perfect for it. What else? I loved him in Moon, which was literally just him on screen the whole time.
I think he did. I was just trying. Yeah, Moon was really cool too. But I think he did win an Oscar he won it for 3 Billboards Outside.
Oh, did he? I didn't see that movie. I really should get around to watching that one.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty hateful in that movie. I have a problem with that movie.
Oh, okay.
We can talk about that another time, but I'm glad he got an Oscar because he does deserve it.
Okay, so quick little blurb. Why do you hate that movie?
Because it's another movie about racism, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like Sam Rockwell's character gets an undeserved redemption. That's basically it. It.
I understand that completely. There are so many movies out there where like the bad guy is a bad guy, and at the end you're just like, I forgive you, and you're like, why? Yeah. He's horrible still. Like, what is wrong with you?
That is this movie. And it's just because I think there's affection for Sam Rockwell. Like, you cast something like that, and people who like him kind of want to like him, even though he's so... And they give him a horrible mother, so you feel bad for him. Like, it's the standard thing, right? Like, there's a terrible person, and then you kind of try to redeem them by saying, but they had a terrible upbringing. And that doesn't matter to me, right? Like, I mean, it matters if you're doing a full character study, but I don't know. Some redemptions aren't earned.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up a person who's controversial right now, but this is why I love the movie. We need to talk about Kevin, because
I've not watched that movie.
It's so good. You might hate it now because of who's in it, but it's so good because it's about this kid who's shoots up his school, but it shows his upbringing, right? And his family at home is a loving, wonderful family. Wonderful. He doesn't get redemption at the end. Nothing. He's like, I was born bad and I'm bad. I'm like, and you're in jail now. Gotcha. Okay. And I was like, like they weren't like, oh, the reason why they're doing this is because their mom abused them or they were left in a dumpster. But they didn't give them reasons. They're like, no, sometimes people are just born this way. Like
Some people are just evil. Some people are just evil. Yeah.
And, and that's one of the reasons why, I will never watch that movie again because it is disturbing. And it's so dark. Like, it's so dark. But it is excellent in every way. But, but yes.
Yeah. I mean, we shouldn't get too far afield, but
yes, I agree. Yes, we have to go back.
But I just saw a movie today, which is, I guess a lot of horror movies are like that, but I just saw Pearl today, that movie by Key West, and it's very much that, right? It's like exploiting this woman, like she's a girl and it's in the 20s, and it just comes out that she's just an evil person. But like she has hopes and dreams. She wants to be a dancer. She has people that are nice to her. She has friends, but it just turns out like she's a psychopath. And there's no real reason. But
I saw the trailer for that one. I went to go see Barbarian, which is, I hate my friend for taking me to see this, but it is a proper horror movie, and you spend 90% of the movie just gripping your chair and nothing's happening. Right. Like nothing is happening, but you're just like, oh my God, this is so intense.
But I kind of love that. I feel like, okay, we should have another conversation about horror.
We're way up. We're way up.
Yes, we're gonna go. Them this year, and they were all like, but let's not talk about them. Let's talk about our movie. So
Matchstick Men, loved it. Apparently, it was good.
I did.
But I actually was. So I was paying attention to the credits, and I did not know Hans Zimmer did the music or the director was Ridley Scott. I don't know why I've never noticed this before.
When I saw the credit come up that Ridley Scott, I was like, Ridley Scott. And then I also saw Robert Zemeckis is like executive producer. I'm like, how did I never watch this before? Like, there's a lot of people in this movie. Like, connected to this movie. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, maybe this is why it's good. I'm not saying unknown directors and stuff don't make good movies. I'm just saying these people are known for making stuff.
Movies. But But no, this was a good movie, and I think, they definitely were given the space to make the movie they wanted.
And it definitely had that, like, a bit of that Catch Me If You Can vibe to it, that kind of, like...
breezy kind of,
that... Well, because they were also... where did this take place? It was, like, California or something, right?
Nevada or something? Like, there was a Nevada license plate. Maybe that was an out-of-town car. I don't know.
Well, it was somewhere bright and sunny, and it was just beautiful all the time. And they're all just, like, running outside and doing their stuff, not worrying about anything. And I was like, okay, this is fine.
Yeah. And like Nicolas Cage's character was always like until the end, it was very cool and collected, and Sam Rockwell was very cool, and like they had a lot of jazz, like Sinatra type music going.
Right,
so it did remind me of like something like Ocean's 11 at that point too, right? Because it was very Rat Packy, jazzy kind of, and Mad Men, even though Mad Men is not a heist or a con thing, but that aesthetic, right?
Yeah, like, even like especially with the opening sequence where they were doing like the little shots and like the names were like sliding in from the side and sort of like dancing with the music too, like that kind of thing. I have to admit, I always love like a good credit sequence.
Same.
Yes, especially if it's completely separate. Like it's cool when it's built in, but when it's separate and just does something really cool, you're just like, this is great.
It's its own little art piece. It's its own little piece of art. I'm repeating myself at the beginning, but I love like animated ones like that. What is it? Anatomy of a Murder or whatever, like some of the classic animated ones from the old times.
Like the 60s and 70s, yeah.
And even like Catch Me If You Can had a fun opening credit sequence.
Or also, it wasn't the best movie, but Girl with the Dragon Tattoo had a really good opening sequence. And also the first...
Seven had a really good opening.
Oh, sequence. Seven has a really good one. Yes, that is correct. Also, the first Kingsman movie, that opening sequence is killer. I know it's a weird one to pick up, but it's a really good one.
Maybe I'll need to revisit. I've watched the Kingsman movies. I just don't remember very well.
Yeah, it's got a cold opening, then it does the opening sequence, but then also the end of the opening sequence goes into the story, directly into it as well. And it's just done very, very well, is all I'm saying. And then of course there's like just James Bond movies, which I just love.
James Bond are classic.
Except for the Madonna one. That one was really bad. when they were fencing and stuff. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
I don't remember it. I like the song. I don't remember the opening. I don't remember. Okay, I'm just going to throw in one opening sequence from a TV show that I think is really cute. Have you watched the show Severance?
Yes, I have. Well, I've only watched one episode. Never mind.
Oh my god, it's so good. That show is so good. You need to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, no, I literally just the other day I got access to watching it, and I sat down and watched the first episode, and I really liked the first episode. Don't get me wrong. It was just very heavy, and I just needed like a day or two, and I'm going to go back to it. I am going to watch the whole thing. Based on the first one, I think I'm going to watch the whole thing.
I think it's a pretty incredible series.
Yeah, I think Apple TV is finally putting out things that people want to watch, which is good. Yeah. It's just, I don't have access to most of it, so I haven't watched a lot of it. Like I haven't even watched the football one. I don't know.
Ted Lasso,
yes.
I like Apple Plus, but I mean, I think the content stuff that they're doing now is like they have some really good shows, but there's not enough content on there. Like I feel like it's the emptiest platform. Yeah,
because they're not buying more stuff to put on there. They're making all of their stuff. So it's going to take a little while for their things to like build up. Yeah. Whereas most other platforms were based on things that already existed and then they added to it. But we're having the same, like they always said streaming is going to be different. It's not going to be like cable where you got to buy packages and to get all the different things. It's turned into cable. It's turned into cable. That's it.
It kind of is. It really is. So back to the movie. So how old was Alison Lohman when she was in this movie? Because
she was 24.
She was 24.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, because one of my first notes was she doesn't look 14. And as the movie, and I looked up her age, she was 24. And I was like, is that why part of the heist thing? And then throughout the whole movie, again, because it took so long, I was like, no, maybe she is supposed to be 14 in the movie. And then, of course, you get to the end. But she was 24. Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting because I did not know how old she was, and so I bought that she was 14. Like I can't really tell how old people are, but I'm also like my age radar is off because I watch shows like Riverdale and Pretty Little Liars. I watch all of the teen shows where everybody on the shows is played by people in their 20s and they're all supposed to be in high school. So that whole age inappropriate casting is kind of I'm immune to it now. Like
well, because you have to accept it to go along with what's being shown in front of you is part of it. I
accept it so much that I didn't blink when I saw her. I just thought but I did wonder at the end because she obviously was looking a lot older at the end. So, but I thought it's pretty good casting though. I mean, she has a very slight build, which
helps. Yes. Helps. Yeah. And she wore a lot of like looser tops and like looser outfits when she was playing the young 14-year-old. So then as soon as you saw her as like the adult, she's still wearing form-fitting and has like a full face of makeup and different hair. And you're just like, oh, you're an adult. Okay.
But it's funny too, because it means that even in the world of the show, that character is a really good actress.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like it made a person who looks for cons not pay attention to a con. Like it didn't trigger anything in his head. But like something's wrong here. Yeah. But also it might be because he's not used to being around 14-year-old girls. And he's like, well, I guess this is how they act.
So how did you feel about the way he forgave her at the end?
I honestly don't think he should have forgave her. I honestly would have just been like, yeah, she stole all my money, by the way. I mean, you can't have if it was like if Nick Cage was a woman, she probably would have hit her. Yeah. But it's like, you stupid bitch, oh my god, you took all my stuff. But I think one of the reasons why he kind of forgave her was A, he was in a good place in his life, and B, she was like, well, he screwed me out of all of the money too. Like Frank screwed her out of all the money too. I didn't get anything. All of it.
Didn't get her fair share.
Share. Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like, it went really sentimental towards the end. So, I don't know. I do kind of feel like he should have given her a bit of a harder time, but I get that they wanted to end on a kind of, she still calls him dad and he seems to like it. Like, I feel like, I guess they're trying to establish that even though the entire time she was conning him, pretending to be his daughter, they did like each other.
Yeah, and I think it's too that in his mind she's his daughter still, because that's how he knew her, that's how he met her, that's how she came into his life.
And he didn't want to know her real name.
Yeah, no, because then it would change things, right? It would change. I think it would make him angry. Like, I think that anger would hit him. He's like, you're like, no, my real name is Margaret. You'd be like, oh, fucking Margaret. Like, I think it'd be slightly different. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that part was like he was deliberately wanting to hold on to when he's like, I already know your name. And then she's like, you're right, bye, Dad. So they were choosing to stay in their roles, but
yeah. But I also think that helps him stay out of the life that he was in before, because I think him trying to take revenge, or him trying to find Frank, or him doing something to her would just bring him back into that space, and he doesn't want any part of it.
That's a good point. Yeah, because I wondered, is like usually in these kind of con man, like one cons one and one cons the other, and they're always sort of one-upping each other.
Yeah.
So as soon as he finds out, I was thinking, what's he gonna do? Like, is he gonna? And then they didn't. And then it was like 1 year later, he's just a different man. I think that was a nice way to end it for him. So he was out.
So he was out. Yeah. I think they essentially this is sort of like Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, if you think about it, one con, they think it's one con happening, but the chick's got the con that's way higher than whatever they're doing, kind of thing. So, I think it works. It's just, I think as you spend time with the characters in the movie and you see how much he's grown and changed, and he, except for when he loses his money, he's already getting less angry, and he's already getting less, has less tics and all this kind of stuff. But he really loses his mind when he thinks his daughter is in danger, but then he realizes she doesn't even exist. That's when he's just like, I give up. I'm done with all of this nonsense. Because I think also too, it's him realizing what he's been doing to other people, and he's like, this doesn't feel good. I don't think I like this.
And I think that was the key part too, because like when he says, I don't feel good about what I do, and she goes, why do you still do it? I feel like he kind of lets it go, because like at the end of the day, none of that money was really his, right? Every cent of that money he stole from someone else. So
exactly,
the fact that they stole from him, it's kind of poetic justice.
Yes. Yeah. And
it allows him to sort of actually, I think, earn his redemption, right? Because then he just goes legit. He gets a real job. He has a real girlfriend, and they're not coasting on his money that he stole from people. Like, he really had to start from scratch.
Yeah, I think if he still, like, he was able to keep some of the money, except for like the little token that Frank left him, I think he would still be a nervous wreck, to be honest, because I think he would still be like, he'd be worried about it running out, and he'd be worried about people coming back for it. He'd be worried about like where he put it and how he hid it and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So I think it makes sense that all of the money is gone, compared to him having like, sometimes you're like, oh, I have another secret stash somewhere just in case. Like, that's not how this went.
It was a reboot of his life. So he basically started from nothing. He got together with a nice checkout lady, and they're building a life.
They're building a life together, and it's sweet and it's nice. And it's not, as you said, it's a restart. It's not really a redemption, but it's a restart. It's allowing him to sort of become that better person that he wants to be or thinks he is. And try again. Whereas I think the other, like, my other question too is like, of course Frank is in the wind with a bunch of money and blah blah blah, he's a bad guy, sure, but when he asks, what's the daughter's name again?
Angela.
Is it Angela? Okay. When Angela, he meets her again at the end, and he's like, are you conning him? She's like, no, I like him. Do you believe her? Do you think that's what's going on?
I don't know, because he didn't look like he has any money. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, we'll I guess we'll never know, because the movie's over. And maybe she is like such a good con artist that she's going to keep doing it. So we won't know. But I mean, he doesn't know. Like maybe that's another good reason why he doesn't really want to know her.
Yes. Yeah. He doesn't want to follow her, track her, find out what she's actually doing or anything. Yeah. Just leave her to her own devices because I'm out of it.
Which I think we should switch over to Memento because I feel like, unless you have more you want to talk about Matchstick Men.
No, not really. I mean, like I find both of these movies were done in such a way that it was very hard for me to take notes on them, except for like a lot of high level things throughout them. Yeah. And like it was things like, you know, remember the early 2000s where you could still smoke indoors. It was driving me fucking crazy throughout the whole movie because he was smoking everywhere. Like
that was everywhere. My note too. Lots of smoking because like you could not notice the smoking. There were close-ups of the cigarettes being lit. Yeah. And close-ups of the smoke going around and everything. Yeah.
It was just, I was just like, oh, you're walking into a building and you took out a cigarette and lit it. What? No, that's not how you do that. You know. And my other, well, I have a few notes, but I think we've talked about most of it. But one we didn't. My thing about a lot of movies when people are giving someone a number and stuff, and they write on the palm of someone's hand, drives me fucking nuts. Because that's the worst place to write a number or something. Right away. Immediately. And I do have one complaint about like how they structured this story is the fact that like I know he thinks Angela is his daughter, but he takes her to the bank one time, right? And it's like they've known each other a week or something. Yeah. And then he's like, "Oh, I'll give her signing authority on the account." And you're just like,
actually, "No, I agree. That didn't make any sense." When he did that, you're right. When he did that, I thought maybe that was some part of a con of some kind, but I couldn't figure out how or why. Yeah, I could not. I thought he must have some plan that, like, he's going to use that in some con, but it turns out it's just sentimental and. That made no sense. You're right. But they needed to have that happen. Otherwise, the whole thing doesn't work.
Exactly. But it just, even if he's a con man, and even if he's trusting someone, I would think he would wait much longer to give that kind of access to something that's that important to him. You know what I mean?
That is where what makes sense from a character development point of view doesn't mesh with what the plot demands. Mm-hmm. They could probably found a more elegant way to do it, but that kind of I bumped against that as well because it didn't make any sense when I realized that there was no other reason for him to do that other than he feels guilty and then she's his daughter. But it's like, I mean, I guess you could justify it by he has no one in his life and now he thinks he has a daughter, but even then, you wouldn't do that. Right, no. This is your life savings. You're not going to hand it to a 14-year-old girl who you don't even trust enough to go to an arcade one night or whatever without freaking out. Like it makes no sense.
Exactly. Well, my only thing I was thinking that maybe they did it this way because so the timeline of the movie to me seems to be only like a couple of weeks, like 2 to 3 weeks or so. Yeah. Whereas I think possibly in the book maybe it was a lot longer. And because of the time constraints of the movie and the pacing of it, they sort of condensed it. You know what I mean? Like, because they do that all the time, where some books, it's like, no, the book takes place over like 10 years, you know, but the movie takes place over 10 days. And you're just like, oh, but that also breaks some of the dynamics of how and why certain parts of what's going on happens.
Yeah.
That is my only way to get around it.
I think, I agree. I mean, there's a certain suspension of disbelief that you have to use, but sometimes things don't work as well as they should. But there's so many pieces that work well. I feel like
you can definitely overlook it.
Yes. You can overlook it. Yeah.
So Memento. What were you trying to get at?
Well, with Memento, I mean, it's just because the more we talk about Matchstick Men, the more it really does feel like there's so many parallels, right? Because we also, so in Matchstick Men, because like we said, the movie's a con, like we don't know the real motivations of Nicolas Cage's friend and daughter. Like it turns out they're both criminals that are working to rip him off, and he doesn't know that, and we also don't know that. And I feel like it's a similar vibe with Memento, but it's more overt about it, right? Because Memento knows that we don't know what's going on, right? Whereas Matchstick Men tries to present that you do know what's going on. This is his friend, this is his daughter, like they're trying to trick us. Whereas Memento, what I like about it so much is just you never know what's going on, and we only really know what Guy Pearce knows, right? Like, like every scene that we watch, and then he writes something down. So we don't know who Teddy is. We don't know if we can trust Teddy. We don't know who Carrie-Anne Moss is. We don't know if we can trust her.
Natalie,
we pretty much know we can't trust them.
Yeah.
But I mean, what I found really interesting is just that, like, you know, I wanted to trust them, right? I want, as a viewer, you kind of just want someone in his life that he can trust, and you kind of, I kind of liked that. You know, Teddy's manner with him was like they're friends. It's sort of fun, right? Like, you know, I kind of wanted to trust Teddy, and Carrie-Anne Moss, just because she's an edgy actor in a lot of things. Like, you know, it's sort of the same. Anyway, I mean, my point is just sort of bringing the two movies together. That there's a man and a woman in both movies that are surrounding the lead who has a condition and cannot tell what their true motivations are. And in both movies, they both take advantage of them. And in both, they're definitely lying to them, lying to the main character, and lying to get what they want.
Yes, and that's very true. And I think with Memento, because of the way the story unfolds, because as you know,
backwards.
The whole gimmick, it's backwards. Nolan clearly enjoys playing with time. That, you know, like you can't understand the whole story unless you watch the whole movie. Yeah. Because wherever you stop it and you think like, oh, I know what the story is, you don't. And that is a testament to how it's written and how they cut it into pieces. Yeah. And it makes it still intriguing to this day when you have a look at it, even if you've watched it a few times already, and like you know where it's going, but you spend all of your time looking at the scenes trying to put together like the pieces of it and be like, where were the hints, where were the clues, where were the other things that were part of this?
Well, I mean, it's been so long for me to watch it, like I couldn't remember, right? I couldn't remember the ending. Like I couldn't remember everything that happened. So it was just, I really enjoyed the whole process of watching again, because it is a challenging movie to watch. Like it's a very active watching kind of experience. You cannot just relax, go to the bathroom, fold your laundry and keep half an eye on the screen. Like you kind of really have to pay attention, because every single scene, there's like, because it's backwards, we don't know what happened before. Every single scene, there's some element there. And then when you go backwards, you find out maybe one of those elements. And then there's another mystery in that scene about how did that get there? And sometimes they're funny and sometimes they're really tragic. And it's just, I just thought it was like the whole movie is scene by scene, a puzzle, and putting it together. And I love that it's already challenging just because it's the backward structure. Like every scene is backwards. It's like starts at the end and then it keeps going backwards. But I love that it doesn't even stop there. There's this totally other timeline in black and white that seems to be going forwards at the same time. And at some point they're going to collide. But it's just like, when you're watching it, it's already enough of a mindfuck that you're trying to piece together all these backward scenes. And then suddenly you've got this black and white footage and you don't even know where it fits in the timeline. Like there's so much challenging, it's such a challenging movie to watch. There's so many challenging pieces to put together. I think it's really, really interesting. And I like the way it's played for humor as well as suspense. Like I like the scene where Carrie-Anne Moss is in the bar and he's drinking, and then the guy on the bar laughs, and then before he takes another drink, she stops him, and then the scene before, you see that they all horked in it. She's just testing him. I think that's hilarious. And I love the scene. Sorry, I keep talking about this. I really like this movie, but I like the scene where it starts with him in the bathroom and it just cuts to him. He's sitting on a toilet holding a bottle of vodka or something. And he goes, I don't feel drunk, because he's so confused. and then when you cut back to the other scene, and the whole thing is he's planning to kill this man and he needs a weapon, and he grabs the bottle and he goes to hide in the bathroom to hit the guy with the bottle, but he's in there so long he forgets what he's doing there. And it's just like, I don't feel drunk.
Well, and that's yeah, and that's the thing at the beginning of every scene when his mind resets, essentially. You as a viewer are also with him trying to figure out, like, how did he get there? Like,
exactly,
what is he doing here? Like, this is so weird. But what's really funny in that same scene is that, you know, he thinks he's in the bathroom to take a shower, and he just gets naked and takes a shower and then ends up in a fight. And you're just like, wait, what? What is
I know.
what?
He's trying to pick up. You're right. But I love that, because he can only do what makes sense to him in that moment, because he has no idea why he's there.
Mm-hmm.
I love that scene too, where it cuts to him, he's sort of jogging into the yard and goes, what am I doing? And then it's like, oh, I'm chasing this guy. And then he shoots out, no, he's chasing me. And it's like,
runs the other way
in real time as he's running. What am I doing? I thought that was so funny. Like,
it was great. Yeah.
I love that you were able to milk humor, like, I think genuine laughs out of this scenario that is otherwise very tragic.
It is very tragic. It's very sad. It's like 50 First Dates except serious, you know. It's like that whole thing. But again, another connection between Matchstick Men and Memento is that everybody in this movie is a bad person, just like in Matchstick Men. Like, even Leonard, Guy Pearce's character, where, you know, at first you kind of feel sorry for him. He's trying to put this thing together. I mean, the first scene of the movie is very shocking. Like, they get you like immediately. Yeah. But then he goes to the previous scene, and then you're just like, oh, so he's solving the murder of his dead wife. Gotcha. And then you feel sad for him. He's got this problem, blah, blah, blah. But then you get all the way to the beginning, and you're just like, oh, you're also a bad person. Like, oh my God. So you're like, everybody in this movie is bad, down to like the guy who runs the motel. Bad people. Like, they're all bad.
And that's why it's sort of a bleak movie in many ways, but it has so much style, and it takes so many risks. I love that detail though of the motel owner being bad and ripping him off by renting him multiple rooms because he won't remember, and then just telling him. I think that's hilarious, because he won't remember anyway.
In like a minute, yeah.
Yeah, it's just such a funny thing. But I did find it very disturbing that, you know, Guy Pearce's character, he's on the hunt for this guy that killed his wife. And it turns out he's killed tons of people that are called John G. And, you know, Teddy he's a really bad person. Like, he's using Guy Pearce as a weapon and planting all these seeds and helping him just so he can kill people. Like, it's pretty obvious. So yeah, the secondary plot. So did you feel like the plot was basically Carrie-Anne Moss is dating Jimmy. Jimmy gets ripped off by Teddy, and then Teddy uses Guy Pearce to kill Jimmy. Mm-hmm. And so then Carrie-Anne Moss realizes this, and then she uses Guy Pearce to now kill Teddy. So they both used Guy Pearce to kill someone.
Yes. Yeah.
And she did it as a revenge, and he did it just to steal the money. So
did she do it as revenge, or did she do it to also get Jimmy's money or Jimmy's drug stuff?
Well, it could go either way, because she does call him her boyfriend, but I guess she lies the entire time we're watching her. But I mean, to me, it felt like, I guess it could go either way. Like, who knows what her affection for Jimmy is? Yeah,
like, because she's clearly not a good person.
No, she's not a good person. Like,
yeah,
they're all bad.
Yeah, I think the bleakness in this is the fact that everybody in his world only sees a way to take advantage of him instead of helping or trying to do something good for him. Because even Teddy, at the beginning, he's like, yeah, at first, you know, I helped you solve the case and you killed that guy. That was fine, but you kept coming back. So it's like, I'll use you for other stuff instead of sending him home or sending him to an institution like he should have.
Yeah, I mean, he's very. But the other problem though is, like, Guy Pearce is bad, but he's also kind of psycho, right? Because he wants to kill this guy so badly. Like, there's a lot of other ways you could deal and process that kind of emotion, but because of that extra piece, because he is trying to suppress the memory that he actually killed his wife because of his condition. That I think it's kind of put him over the edge. Like he cannot. So like Teddy says, like he has meaning in his life. Like he feels he's got meaning as long as he's hunting for John G. Right. So, I mean, in that last scene, when Teddy tells him everything and he realizes now that he's already killed the guy that killed his wife and many others, and he's now just going around killing random people because it makes him feel better, because it gives him some purpose in life. That's a pretty shitty purpose. And when he's told that, he doesn't want to change it, right? Like he doesn't, like he could, when faced with this information, he has a few minutes to make a decision, like, because he's going to forget everything. But instead of writing him a note that says, I've killed John G., which would stop everything. Right? If he would just then be forced to start a new life, he just decides to target Teddy instead. And he knows that he will end up killing Teddy if he writes this note down.
Yeah, and I think that's the part that makes him a bad person, whereas like you had a choice. You could have changed your whole life. You could have not been doing this, but instead you chose to lie to yourself, because even throughout the movie, they talk about how memory lies to you. That's why notes are really important.
Yeah.
But I'm like, if you can't remember
notes that don't, yeah.
Exactly. But if you can't remember your intent or the reason for writing the note, or you don't have time to write the long description of something, like those notes are going to send you in different directions, and maybe not the right place, the wrong place. You don't remember what it actually means, all this kind of stuff. And you're just like, well, it's me, so I'm going to follow it, But
very specifically, he decided to weaponize himself to kill Teddy because he was mad at Teddy in the moment. Mm-hmm. And so he wrote himself a note, and he gave himself the license plate. That's Teddy's license plate.
That's tattooed on his body.
Teddy. Yeah. So, I mean, he basically is a murderer, right? Like he decided to kill Teddy in that moment.
Yeah. Well, but he also decided to, I think the reason why he did it is he wanted to shift blame onto Teddy. Like he's like, no, I've killed all these people because of this man. And this man kept all the secrets from me. So he's been lying to me this whole time. So I'm going to write down that he's lying. And then I will have to remember this license plate to take him down. Because I know now he's a John G. I can take him out. Yeah. And that's what makes him a bad person.
It does make him and it would be interesting to know what he did after he killed Teddy, like the very first scene. That's where it ends for us with his story. Like he shoots Teddy and Teddy's dead. But what would happen if we were able to see 10 minutes in the future after he forgets why he killed Teddy and why he's standing there and there's this dead man in this, you know what I mean? Like
in front of him,
would he keep the pictures, that all the clues that he's used, and in that moment realize that he killed the John G. he was looking for because he tattooed that specific license plate on his body, right? So that's one variable from all the other times. Like he didn't know who it was, but in this case, he tattooed the license plate on his body, so it is always going to be Teddy's car. Yeah,
and the thing is too is that he made sure to drive his car there, not Teddy's car. So, but I know he does have like the Polaroid that says where he's staying and all that kind of stuff. But will he put those two things together? Will he go to the police for, checking the license plate again? Will he go back to Natalie for some reason? Because he doesn't written down like where Natalie lives or who she is or anything. It just says Natalie.
He has the bar.
Does he? But did he write down the bar? I don't remember him writing down the bar.
He has because a lot of the notes were on the coasters from the bar.
Mm-hmm.
So he can simply go to the bar because her name is on one. I think that because he did it.
Oh yes, that's right. It's in his glove compartment, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yes. Okay.
But you know what? Like, we've seen him destroy things that he doesn't want to remember anymore. Right, like his wife's belongings and all that kind of thing. So it's probably stands to reason if he doesn't like that he killed Teddy, he'll probably burn all these pictures and he'll just start again and he'll find someone else to kill.
Or he'll be like, oh, you know what, this license plate is wrong and get a different license plate.
Yeah, but he is going to kill someone else because given what Teddy said, like he's killed several people, and even that picture, look how happy you are, right? Like, I think he's someone that likes to do it, and he likes getting the revenge, and that's the only thing he has to live for now. So he's basically a monster.
But also based on the fact that he just like he doesn't remember. Like, forget the fact that he willfully destroyed some stuff to make sure that he keeps killing. That's a very bad thing. But because he keeps forgetting in 10 minutes, and all he can remember is the face of his wife, you know, being suffocated and blah, blah, blah. You know, maybe the motivation for him killing in like a real sense is the fact that to him, he's never found this person, and he's going to keep going because he'll never know about this person. And maybe he'll just get arrested one day for being a serial killer. Like, that's it, you know, because people are going to find bodies. They're going to be like, these people are missing. All of these people, what do they have in common? JG.
I guess at some point he's going to get arrested. Yeah. At some point he will be stopped, I guess. But
yeah.
Let's talk about his acting though, because I feel like he's so beautiful in this movie and he's so good in this movie. But I love the choice that he makes. Like, he's like covered in tattoos. He's on a mission to kill someone. Like, he's pretty tough and rough, whatever. But I love his choice to talk in a super gentle, dulcet tone, like a very calm, relaxing tone, right? Mm-hmm. And like, and also not always be super dour. Like when he goes, "Okay, I'll wait here. I'll be here." Like he. I found it really interesting that he had a lightness to his character, even though it was very dark. And I think that helped the film a lot because the film is so bleak. Without his performance, like elevating sometimes with some of the comedy and just the way he talked and everything, I feel like it would have been a lot more difficult to get through.
But I think that behavior has more to do with him not remembering what's going on than, like, I mean, it definitely was maybe he was directed that way or it was an acting choice, but I think it was necessary for you to understand that he keeps forgetting, because if he didn't have that tonal shift when he forgot, then you'd be like, well, then he's still angry, but he wouldn't know why he's angry. So why would he be yelling? You know, you have that kind of weird thing.
Yeah, no, I'm not even really talking about him being angry all the time. It's just that I think it was like, it could have been directed away, but I think like the acting choice, that his normal speaking voice is very gentle, right? Yes. Like, it's just this very calming kind of, well, I could do it. You need to have a system. I have a system. I use routine and like, it's not aggressive, right? It's like a very calm voice. And I find it's just a really interesting choice given how driven his character is, right? Like, you know, I can see a lot of actors taking a much more intense voice or tone of voice, right? Mm-hmm. And I just think it's a really interesting choice the way he talks about it. And when he talks about Sammy Jenkins, like, I find that really interesting too, right? Because it's like, it's a horrible story. But then he tells it in such a casual way. Like, it's so calm. It's almost, so sometimes it seems very nice and calm, and sometimes it seems kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, he comes across as like manic but non-threatening, and I think it's that kind of behavior is very necessary for him to navigate the world, because I think he is manic because he's trying to find this guy who killed his wife, and you know, he's on a mission and he wants to do this. But I think if he comes across a little crazy, that people won't interact with him, or not even crazy, more along the lines of like like if he comes across threatening in any way, he won't get the help that he needs to finish what he's doing. And so him being calm, him, you know, taking his deep breaths every once in a while, whatever, and wherever he is, helps him, puts him in a place where he can interact with other people. And people talking to him will be like, "You're weird, but I'm not scared of you."
Yeah.
Those good.
And he tells all the people, "I have this condition. I'm not going to remember you," and everything. But he says it in a very light way. Like, he's not traumatized by it or anything. Like, he says it in a very matter-of-fact way. Mm-hmm. So that people...
I do find it interesting that everybody's first like interaction with him is, I'm gonna test that this is real. Like I just think it's really funny. Because I think even now, I think people would do that with the mindfulness, with like mental illness and all that kind of stuff, to be like, I don't believe you, because it's an invisible disability, right?
But it's also so extreme, right?
It is very extreme.
That if I'm talking with you long enough, I'm going to forget that we even started talking. Or if you go away to the bathroom and come back 10 minutes later, I will forget that I ever met you. Like, that's a very extreme thing. I would want to test it too, because it seems crazy, right? It seems crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually think it's a very horrifying condition. So I thought that the movie 50 First Dates, I just couldn't get into it because the whole thing is so awful. Like, it's a romantic comedy, but even at the end, she has to relearn who he is every single day, and he said all these notes, but it's always going to be that same
day every day. Well, my thing about the end of that movie is when he comes out on the boat, they have a daughter. So imagine waking up
and
you're 9 months pregnant and you're just like, what is happening? Or like you wake up in the middle of the night because you've got contractions and you're just like, what is going on? Like, I think it is horrifying to me. Like, it's absolutely horrifying.
Yeah, I did not find that a charming comedy because I kept thinking, this poor lady and this poor man, like, their lives are going to be crappy. Like, it was trying to force a Groundhog Day using this as a difference instead of some fantastical, he's getting to date Andy McDowell every day because this weird supernatural repeating day syndrome or whatever. And they just found a way to do Groundhog Day again, but with this as a condition. But I feel like it doesn't feel the same because it's so tragic for her.
Well, exactly. And I mean, the first like 2 times I think I saw that movie, because it was one of the early movies in my collection and I do own it. And I like the last time I watched it was for the podcast, which was like 3 years ago now. And I watched it that time and I was just like, this movie makes me really uncomfortable. I don't think it's funny. It hit that,
really
that
consent
point.
To everything. Can she even really consent to everything if she doesn't remember?
Well, even the part where like they're on the beach or something and she says something about like, oh, what, it's a great first kiss. And he was just like, well, I've kissed you like 100 times. Can we do other things? And I was like, ew, no. Like, it's not good. It's just not good.
I was just going to say it made some money, but I don't know if that movie would be made now.
Oh, no, I don't think it would be at all. No. And
it's a mental illness thing, really. And it's like, I just don't think, I don't know. Maybe it would, but it just seems like the wrong choice.
Well, if it was made now, I think they would do the same thing they did with Overboard and switch the position so people think it's less mean and crazy. But but still, either way, whether it's a man or a woman who has the affliction, it's all horrible. Like,
it's hard to...
Yeah, and they show that in this movie as well with the whole Carrie-Anne Moss thing and how quickly she takes advantage of him. And, they do end up in bed together. But at the same time, you're just like, is this just because she wants him on their side? Or is this because, she can? Like, what is her motivation for this? Because she's also taking advantage of someone in a sexual manner who can't really, not defend themselves, but can't really consent to what's going on.
And he doesn't know, like the context. Like, it was a brilliant scene, though, when she comes in and she says, oh, my God, I did what you told me to do. He beat me up. And we don't know if she's telling the truth. Like, we suspect, but we don't know. And then to see it play out where she's so awful to him, and to the point where he punches her, and then she just waits in the car until he forgets, and then she comes back in.
Yeah. And it kind of like blows your mind that, these people in Matchstick Men, these people in the real world are such good actors that they can fool someone to this level.
Yeah, exactly. And so much that there's no writing utensils, like no pens, nothing, so he can't write it down.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. Okay, so that's one thing I did notice, because the scene where she walks in, where she's being an asshole to him and stuff, She puts her bag down on the table, and if you pay attention, she picks up all her pens and puts it in her bag.
That's really cool, right?
That's what she does. Yeah.
Yeah, because then he's like, because she knows he's going to want to write it down after she's such an asshole to him. And I love that he knows that he needs to write this down and he can't. And it's just like, it's like watching the last sort of helper come, like float away from the from the island or whatever. Like, you know, it's just like he knows he needs to write this down and he can't, and then he just ends up falling for it. Like,
exactly. Yeah, and it's not his fault that he falls for it, but at the same time, you're just like, what are you even doing there? But then you go through the scenes before and you're like, oh, that's what you're doing there. And you're just like, oh my God. And it becomes so stressful for not just him, but for the audience, because you're just like, what are you doing? And then you get all the way to the beginning again and you're like, oh, you're bad. Okay, never mind.
But that's why I love this movie, because you're kind of rooting from the whole time and you have no idea what's going on with him every time, but you kind of still know he's going to take care of himself just because you've seen his, you know, he survives to the end of the movie, which is the beginning of the movie. So you're not really worried he's going to die. So there's that sort of, you're comfortable and you're with him and he's sort of charming in that weird way and everything. It's not until the very end that you kind of the movie that you realize he's a bad person as well. But even then, the way he does it is like, you know, you lied to me. You're a John G. You could be my John G. Like, it's very deliberate and it's kind of unsettling, but I just thought it was a good ending too. Like, it was just an interesting, I don't know how you would end that movie. And I think they did a good job.
They did a perfect job because they wrapped up the loop that he was in that section of his life. Right. And they did it in such a perfect way. And what's really funny about it that he never wrote down or made a note anywhere that Teddy was a police officer or anything, even though he saw his wallet, he like had his wallet, he saw his identification, he knows he's a cop, but he was still like, I'm going to ignore this. No. You're the bad guy. I'm not, you know, and I think, that willfulness is the thing that really like gets you at the end. And you're just like, oh, you're just doing this to yourself now. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I still think it's Christopher Nolan's best movie because
I think it is. Yeah.
I don't think it ages. I think the script is airtight. I think the performances are amazing. The choices and direction were phenomenal. Like the whole backward structure, the black and white with it. Like, it's such a great movie. Right. And then I feel like he had so many expectations on him when I watch some of the other movies, and everybody expects like so much, you know, I think complexity from him, right? They demand, outside of the Batman movies, which, you know, has a different set of expectations, but like movies like Tenet, right? Or was it Inception? Yeah, Inception, right? Like, they're very, like, he's stuffing his movies now with even more concepts and more this and that and everything, but I find them weaker movies, right? Like, I mean, I couldn't even get through Tenet without, like, it took us days to get through Tenet because it was so boring. And I actually fell asleep the first time. I couldn't keep my eyes open. It was like, even in the middle of action, I was just like so confused. And then I actually like opened an explainer to sort of explain what was happening as we were watching. I shouldn't have to do that. The sound mix was awful. I couldn't understand anything anybody was saying. And then I Googled it and like he did it on purpose for some reason. Like, it's a shitty movie.
Yeah, it's because he wanted people to lean in. And I was just like, no, that's just stupid sound editing. That's all it is.
That's stupid. We're going to lean in anyway if we're interested. Yeah. Don't make it so really we're leaning in because we hate the sound. Don't make us hate it, and that's why we're leaning, because we're just trying to understand, like, even hear it. Like, anyway, like, that movie is like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, when I read and watch and I understand what he's trying to do, like, there's so many holes in the logic. There's so many holes. It does not hold together at all. It's like, you know, I think it sucks. And like, Inception is a good movie. I did enjoy Inception, but I don't think it's as good as Memento. I think Memento is way better.
Yeah, for people listening, I'm nodding and agreeing to everything Austin's saying. Just saying. I realized I've just been like nodding and smiling and agreeing, and I'm like, people can't hear that. What are you doing? But yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you, and I think he has the same problem a lot of directors have that become like really big immediately. Is they suddenly have too much money and nobody tells them no, or nobody tells them cut back, or nobody's like, why don't we do this instead? And I think that's a big part of his problem right now is that he's like, look, I have this crazy high concept thing and we're going to go backwards and we're going to do these weird things and people are going to drive and blah, 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 blah. And they're like, do what you want. Here's all of our money. Instead of like, yeah, that's really interesting, but why? Like just ask like 2 questions and maybe he'll fix it a little bit better.
What is his next movie? I'm just Googling it now. Oppenheimer. It's called Oppenheimer.
Oh yes, it's about the guy in the bombs.
So yeah, the atom bombs. So I mean, that is a biopic. So that could be good. I mean, he's got skills, right? He's got skills as a director, and I think if he, maybe this one will be better because it's like it's more contained.
Hopefully. I mean, when I saw the trailer for it and then he was like, Christopher Nolan came at the end, I was like, oh, that explains this trailer. Okay. I'm very worried he's gonna put it in some sort of way that is like, I don't even know, but it's just some convoluted way he's put this movie together.
I know. I think he's gonna fuck with the timelines. He's gonna try to make it, more him or whatever. Yeah. I mean, the other movie that I was trying to remember, like Interstellar. Did you ever watch that?
Oh, I actually did like Interstellar. I did like Interstellar. But the reasons why I liked Interstellar had more to do with the technology they used in it, because like most futuristic movies or most movies that have like robots in it, and like they're working with humans, the robots are humanoid, And I like the fact that the robots were these like just weird square blocks that just filled with efficiency. I was like, that's really cool. Their rocket ships were cool. The problem on Earth, it was about like greenhouse problems and all that kind of stuff, and like, life on Earth in general. The stuff about like there was a lot of like physics stuff, like wormholes and time dilations and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, he did talk to real physicists and all that kind of stuff to try his best to come up with like real visualizations of all these things. There were a couple of things in it that were just like, oh, we get it, just fucking go. But most of it I liked. I think that's definitely probably the last movies of him that I can officially say like, oh, that was a pretty good movie. Everything else, I was just like, you're brutal. Stop it.
I feel like I watched Interstellar once, and I remember thinking, there's some good ideas here. Like there's a story here that I can kind of understand and like everything, but I just thought it was indulgent. I thought it was too long. I thought he was trying too hard to put all these other concepts in it, and I think it distracted from the core story, which I thought was quite nice. Like Matthew McConaughey and his daughter and everything. Like, I just thought I would have preferred less of the other stuff. And that's what I think of now when I think of Christopher Nolan. He just tries to throw everything in the movie, like all the concepts, all of the stuff.
Well, I think that goes back to people not saying no to him. They're just like, here's bags of money and make a thing. And he's like, okay. And you don't have those people properly telling you like, why don't you edit this out? This isn't necessary. Why don't we switch this here? Does this part make sense? Make people be able to hear what people are saying. Like, just say the words, guys. Just do it. Just
exactly.
So I think that's his big problem, because and I was actually a little worried to watch this because of movies like Tenet and stuff. I'm like, maybe Christopher Nolan isn't as great as we think he is. Oh my God. And then you watch this and you're just like, oh, he was good. We had a reason to be excited. Okay.
No, yeah. I had the same feeling because I think the last movie I watched of his was Tenet, and like I say, it took so long to get through, and I just thought, I loved Memento. It's been a while, but as soon as it started, I just thought, yes, this is brilliant. This is an amazing movie. Like, it's just amazing, right? And yeah, I just think it was really hard for him to top that magic trick of that structure.
Yeah, I think it was just like he started so high that he just didn't have anywhere to go. But I also think if he gets bags of money and decides to be like, no, I'm going to do something relatively basic and simple, like a dude driving around a city and something is happening compared to going into outer space and going into people's dreams and shit. Like, if he goes back to, I think he needs to go back to that simplicity, like have a high concept done in a simplistic way. I think he could do something great again.
I think so. I mean, he's never going to be about simplicity. Like all of his movies have some degree of complexity to it and some kind of concept that he's trying to tease out, unless it's, you know, IP that he can't do that much with. But I mean, I feel like, you know, there's a concept there that he's always thinking, oh, what if I do a whole movie? He doesn't remember anything. And so we're in his mind, we're doing it backwards. Or what if I go in and everything is like, we go into people's dreams, but we never know if we're in a dream or reality. Like there's always some kind of hook for him. I feel like the hooks, like there's no way to elevate or pitch the hook for Tenet. It didn't make any sense, right?
Well,
and,
exactly.
That's where his concepts, like he needs to rein in his concepts. I don't want him to do just a simple movie, but I want him to simplify his high concepts. Like, yeah, make it still complicated, but in a more straightforward way, and don't layer in like 5 other complicating factors. Like make it.
Yeah, and I think that's why Memento works. It's like it's a very high concept. It's quite complicated, but done in such a simplistic fashion, essentially, because you spend the whole movie just driving around in cars and talking to people. You know, the most intense part is where they're running and the guy shoots out a window. That's the most intense part of the whole thing.
But it's not, it's not about the content per se. It's about the structure, right? Because it's like every scene is a mystery because we don't know why he's there. We don't know what's going on. And then the scene that we see after solves some of it, but then creates more. So the structure is the magic of that movie, right? Like the tension, the suspense, it's all because of the way he shot it. If you were to rearrange this movie, and I know that people have done this, but if you were to re-edit this movie and just make it front to back like a normal movie, it's a much less interesting movie, right? Like it's just a straightforward, there's nothing that special. It's not that exciting. It's because of the way he did it, the way he chopped it up and showed it to us backwards and layered different surprises in every single scene. That's why it's interesting, right? And that's
but I think you can say that about any film that plays with timelines, like, you know, like Pulp Fiction and stuff too. Like I think if you put that in the correct order, it's boring. Like it's boring. Or even like Kill Bill, it's boring. Why am I only thinking of Tarantino movies right now? But any movie that plays with timelines, I think it'd be boring.
Maybe, but I don't know if I agree with Pulp Fiction, because I mean, I don't think the reason Pulp Fiction resonated and it was so interesting, to me at least, was the timeline. I think it was more the dialogue, right? Like it was like a very visceral type of filmmaking he was bringing that was, I found, bracing at the time. And, you know, seeing like just the way he cast the stars, like Bruce Willis and John Travolta in that movie, and just the you know, and now it's like so cliche, like criminals talking about the minutia of fast food or whatever. Like it happens in so many movies and has for so long. Like the influence has been so pervasive that it now looks like cliche. But at the time, I think Pulp Fiction was really quite a great movie, and I think it still would have, like the whole scene with, you know, Vince Vega and like Uma Thurman and the adrenaline shot and the whole conversation they have. Like I think that still would be very cool even without the time jumping around. I think that movie would still work.
Okay, I could see that. I don't know. I think it would lose some of its cachet if it was in order, though. I really would.
I think it would, but I think people mostly talk about the scenes they liked and the dialogue. I don't think people are really talking about the timeline in that particular movie. That's not the talking point usually.
Yeah. Well, I think too with this movie, like Tarantino, his scenes are very long scenes. They're like 15, 20, 30 minutes long each scene. Whereas like this, it's like 5 to 10 minutes because that's his memory reset, right? And actually that's one thing that I found a little frustrating about this, because I'm watching it and each scene resets so quickly all the time. I guess you're in his head. That's why it's like that. But also because of that, I found the movie felt so much longer. But not in like a bad way, because by the time you get to the end, you were so the story's wrapped up in such a way that you're just like, oh, it was totally worth doing all of this stuff. But it's just like because the scenes are just so quick, like some of them are like 5 minutes and less, and some of them are, I think the longest one is like 10 minutes or something.
But you also re-see some of those scenes, right? Because they overlap.
They overlap a little bit, yeah. So that puts in a little extra in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really do think it holds up very well, and I think it's still well done. And even though there have been movies out there who've probably tried to emulate this in some way, you know, just playing with just like the timeline of how they're telling the story in general. But I can't think of any who's done it well, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, I can't think of anyone that's done this exact thing as well. But yeah, I think this is one of those, you know, once in a lifetime kind of ideas, and he executed it perfectly, and it launched his career into the stratosphere, and now he is who he is, and he's mega wealthy, and he's had all these films. And I think it was great that this was his first film, and that like he got all the recognition, because there's a lot of brilliant people in the world and they don't get the recognition. This was nice that he got that recognition, because it was such a good film,
and he deserved it for this movie. He definitely did.
Deserved it. Yeah. And you can't say that he's been lazy. Like, my criticism of him kind of trying to add more and more high concept layers is just him not wanting to be lazy, right? It's him wanting to up his game. So
no, I don't think he's lazy in any way. I just think he needs to be pulled back to his origins a little bit and be like, no, what made these movies good? What made them work? What made people really like these stories? It wasn't really the fact that he turned a room upside down. It was the fact that he built interesting characters and the story unraveled in a way that kept people interested, you know, like, and I think he kind of needs to remember that, like, just, you can tell a story, maybe not in a straight line, but you can tell a straightforward story that is interesting and complicated, and you get, you know, these great character studies, but it doesn't have to be so big, you know?
Yeah. I feel like it'd be exhausting to be in his brain.
I think so. Yes. The other episode I did before this was The Matrix, and I think we came to the same conclusion with the Wachowskis, is that, you know, they came out with such a bang, and it was so good because they had constraints, and then they had too much money, and then they just have too many ideas, and they just put them all out there, and nobody said no. And it feels like Christopher Nolan did exactly the same thing. Like, the ideas are there, the thoughts are there, they just need to be edited better, you know, and be put out there. So,
well, I mean, it's probably the human condition, right? Like you try to do more, and the more you have, the more you want to try to do, and then the more successful you are, the less people are willing to tell you not to do that. So it's just, there's so many people on that path, I'm sure.
I think there's tons of people out there. It happens to writers, it happens to fashion designers, it happens to movie makers, it happens to you know, CEOs of companies, like, you know, when they get all greedy and stuff, like it happens. And I think it's, you've worked so hard so that you can do what you want. But when you do what you want, you realize I need cutting back, or I need help, or I need editing, but nobody's there to help you do that anymore. So it can be hard. Yeah.
Unless you have even more famous friends that are willing to tell you something.
To tell you, like, smack you, be like, shut up. That's not what you're doing. Get out of here, you know?
I feel like I actually now want to actually revisit some of his stuff, because it's also been a long time since I've seen Inception. So I might go and watch that at some point.
I think it's a very much more entertaining than, The Dark Knight Rises was pretty good, but I think it's probably more entertaining than most of his other filmography, to be honest.
Yeah, I remember really liking it, so I think it probably would be.
I don't think it's going to be as, like, one thing I remember about that movie that really annoyed me is the whole point of the movie is to get this one guy to do this one thing, which is fine. But also they were introducing a new person into their organization that does the Inception. But then they're just like, come here, Elliot Page, you know, we're going to show you a city going upside down. Okay. And then they just did nothing with them. And you're just like, but what was the point of having this person here when you could have just had them doing the thing?
But
that's me. It's okay.
I mean, I don't remember that well, but I do remember. I remember something about like, not all these characters were necessary.
Oh no, definitely not. No, there were too many people in there for no reason. But it was just about having it look cool, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very cool visual. And the ending, right? The whole ambiguous ending that people have been arguing about for years. Is he awake? Is he asleep? Is he awake? Is he asleep? I remember that because it was so, it's now iconic. But I remember I really wanted to get to the bottom of it. And I think the solution was, like, I feel like Nolan and I can't remember, people gave so many interviews that someone basically hinted that it was real or something.
Yeah, it was something to do with like him having his wedding ring, or like somebody being in the scene is the thing that made it real.
Yeah, there was some detail.
Yeah. So anyway, so final thoughts on these two movies. Are they watchable? You like them? Blah blah blah. Final thoughts.
Yeah. I think so my final thoughts are, I think Memento is still a brilliant piece of art. I think it's an amazing movie. I think it holds up incredibly well, and I think anybody that hasn't seen it should definitely watch it because it's so good. And if you haven't seen it in a while, I think you should revisit it. If you ever had any kind of affection for it, I think you'd still like it. I actually just think it's a genius piece of work. And Matchstick Men, I think, was also very fun. I don't think it's as great as Memento, but I mean, it certainly surpassed my expectations. Like, watching it for the first time, I kept trying to guess what kind of movie it was, and it turned out to not be any of the movies that I thought it was. And I was very entertained. I was very surprised, and I ultimately did like the ending. So I like that too. I would recommend that too.
Yeah, I think Matchstick Men may not be like the piece of art that Memento is, but it's enjoyable. Like it's worth a watch. And Memento makes me remember why we like Christopher Nolan. And I'm like, you know what? He deserved it originally. That's fine.
He definitely did. I mean, he is a genius to have thought of that and to have executed that way. So
you got to give him props for it.
Yes. Definitely.
Agreed.
Definitely.
Agreed. Well, Austin, thank you so much for coming on and having this conversation with me.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. Love talking to you.
Yes, we always kind of stay on top. I know we went a little tangenty this time, but we usually stay on topic. Yeah. And we get really into like the minutia of stuff. It's good. It's good. Well, that's it for this episode of Off My Shelf. Until next time, you can follow along on Instagram and Twitter at ohmyshelf, or you can send an email to ohmyshelf@gmail.com. On the next episode, we'll be talking about Men in Black and Minority Report. Hope you'll be here to listen.